What's going on, guys? No, just checking in with author Douglas Bloch, also a counselor and a depression survivor. We are continuing a series we've been doing where I interview him. He shares his wisdom, his knowledge with all of us. He was a very huge part of my recovery from my major depressive disorder, and he's been extraordinarily helpful. He can help you. Doug, go ahead and say hi.
Hello, everybody. Nice to be here again.
Today, we're going to talk about the necessity of learning to manage your depression and not trying to cure it, which is a very, very hard thing for most people to do. So let's go ahead and get right into it.
Hello, my name is Douglas Bloch. I'm an author and a depression survivor. Welcome to another edition of One-on-One with the Depression Counselor. I'm here with my good friend Noah Thomas, my former client and current mentor, in terms of helping me continue to grow and expand with these YouTube videos. And as part of his mentorship, I'm back on his channel. And actually, I'm on my channel now. But he made this video in the living room together on a beautiful July day of 2014.
Yeah.
And we are talking about a very important topic about seeking to manage your depression, not to cure it.
All right, so let's go ahead and get right into the questions. So the first question we're going to get started with is, why do you tell people to manage their depression and not cure it? Are people seeking relief to their pain?
Right. You know, I want to cure this disease, right? Like curing smallpox or something, right?
Sure.
Now, you know the answer to that question because you're in recovery from drugs and alcohol, right?
Of course.
And what do they say when you go to a meeting in AA? Do they say I'm a recovered alcoholic or I'm a recovering alcoholic?
Recovering.
And why do they say recovering as opposed to recovered?
Because they believe that you are granted a reprieve from your condition based upon a certain spiritual fitness. So.
Right, but then that the condition is always there and can bite you when you're least expecting it.
Right, so that you have to constantly do things and live a certain way to manage it.
Right, so has that been your experience and the experience of other people you've seen in meetings?
That has definitely been my experience with addiction, and of course it's been my experience with depression as well. And of course that is for me. Has that been your experience with depression and anxiety as you've had it through the years?
I had an episode at 18, 26, and 33, and each time I got out of it and said, I am a new man, I'm recovered, I'm never going to have this happen again. And then at 46, the worst one hit.
Right.
And then I got it. Then I realized that depression is a recurring, relapsing condition, just like addiction, and that we can't cure it because we always have the vulnerability, but we can manage the symptoms.
Right.
So even if they come back, we can nip them in the bud before they get out of control. And there are many people in my depression support groups who said, hey, I'm better, see you later, and then 6 months, 2 years later, they haven't relapsed. Now, does that mean that everybody who gets out of a depression is going to relapse? No, but it happens more frequently than you would imagine.
And it's certainly less likely to happen if you are doing maintenance work.
And we'll be talking about that.
Right. Okay, so how do you know this? Is that what you just said regarding people coming back?
Yes. I want to mention something else I didn't mention in the last question, which is that depression is not like chickenpox. When I was a kid, I don't know if kids still get chickenpox, but it's something you get as a child.
It's less likely now.
Yeah.
The vaccine works.
There were chickenpox outbreaks when I was a kid.
Of course.
In the 50s, and then what happened? You would definitely then get over it, and you were immune to it. You developed an immunity, so if you had chickenpox as a child, you could not get it as an adult.
Right.
So a lot of people think depression's like that. You get it once and you have an immunity. No, there is no immunity. And so how do I know this? I know it from my own experience, from reading literature, and from observing the experiences of other people.
But this sounds frightening. What you're saying sounds like scary. I mean, how do you keep people from how do you express that in a way but to not put fear in the person who's currently depressed or just coming out of a depression?
Well, look at something like high blood pressure.
Sure.
That has to be managed. What about heart disease, right? You have to eat well. You have to lower your cholesterol, exercise, So there are many conditions that diabetes is the perfect one.
Perfect.
Control your blood sugars, take your insulin. So depression is only one of many long-term chronic. As a matter of fact, most of the diseases of Western civilization, conditions I'll call them, are these kind of ongoing things you just need to manage. So it's not a bad thing.
It's just a reality that people need to understand.
And guess what? The things that you do to manage your depression, to prevent relapse, are going to make you a healthier and happier person to begin with.
So with that knowledge of that, it's something you have to work on and manage. You can have a better likelihood and outcome in keeping it at bay.
And it's not a curse. It's actually a blessing because it keeps you honest.
Sure.
If you didn't have this depression, you could let things slide, not take care of yourself. The next thing you know, you might have a heart attack or, because you're letting your health slip. And remember, the coping strategies I talk about are physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, self-care.
Sure.
Now, I wrote a book called When Going Through Hell, Don't Stop.
Right. Saved my life.
I said, that's right. That's how we met, through that book. And I said there are two basic parts of getting over depression. First is getting out of hell.
Right.
Because we know that depression and anxiety and addiction, they're all hells.
Right.
But the second and more important part is staying out.
Of course.
That's where the management tool comes in. But the good news is the very tools that I created for myself when I was treatment resistant to help me get out, the exercise and the reaching out for support and the prayer and meditation, those very tools that you use to recover, you can also use those same tools to stay well. So you don't need to begin a whole new learning curve. You don't need to relearn things. You already have the tools in your tool packet.
Right.
If you've come out of a depression, if you've come out of an addiction, you already have what you need. You just have to keep doing it.
Right.
It's like they say, keep coming back at works and AA meetings. Just keep coming back to the tools that you already know and keep practicing them.
Awesome. So how does one go about managing the symptoms of depression and anxiety?
Exactly what I was talking about. You basically need to create a recovery program through my book or others. Find a list of activities that are going to keep you healthy and well. Make sure you're stating your vision statement every day, which we talk about in one of our other videos about the intention to heal and
Right.
having a positive affirmation about wellness is. Making sure you stay connected to other people, that's critical.
Right.
And then every day you should try to practice at least 1 or 2 self-care activities. Make sure you've got enough sleep, make sure you're eating properly, make sure you have structure in your life, and just keep doing what it takes. And then, we haven't made a video about this, but it's really important to log your moods and just keep track of how you're doing, because you can really start to slip and not know it. And if you have friends or a therapist that are monitoring you, sometimes they can see negative changes before you can.
Right.
So just take the preventative tools and just keep using them day to day. And it doesn't matter if there is no cure. As long as you're feeling good and as long as you're feeling well, you can just keep this up one day at a time.
And this is something people can find more information about on your website.
Oh, absolutely. I have a whole, and matter of fact, I want you to show now my diagram of the 5 areas of self-care.
Okay.
Because that's important for people to see visually, and it's also on my website and in my book.
Healingfromdepression.com. Obviously,
Right.
you guys can see that on the screen right now. So what should you do if you notice that you are, in fact, slipping?
So I cover this in another video called Relapse Prevention, but essentially it means making a list of things that you notice about yourself when you're starting to slip, like your sleep is getting disrupted, you're feeling more tired or fatigued, or you're getting more worried or more anxious.
So basically identify your triggers.
Yeah, identify your triggers, and then when that occurs, increase your coping resources. Set up an extra appointment with your therapist. Have a friend come over and monitor you. Maybe you need to take time off of work. A lot of my clients have taken time off of work to get better. I've taken what is called, I forget when you take like leave of absences. That's what they're called,
Sure,
right?
sure.
For health reasons. And just start to put the energy and attention back to yourself so the symptoms don't get worse, because it's a heck of a lot harder to get out of the pit of depression than to stay out. So nip them in the bud, because you don't want a major episode on your hands. Just like in alcohol, you don't want a full-blown relapse. You might want to have a lapse, but you don't want to relapse.
It's kind of how they say the act of relapse happens long before the alcohol hits
It's the
the
same
lips.
thing.
It's the same principle.
The depression happens long before you're in the mix.
Okay.
So, on conclusion, I basically want to say that recovery from depression is not a one-time event. It's an ongoing process. But the good news is, by participating in this ongoing process, you're going to be more well and healthy than you would be if you hadn't done it in the first place.
Perfect. Makes sense.
Okay.
Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.